the other issue that I talked to you previously, obviously, and I want to just touch upon is that, driver deactivations happen for many, many different reasons. And I'm not saying that every single driver is a great driver. There are some people truly should not be on the app. And we know from Uber and Lyft's own, safety reports that they bring out every 2 years, the assaults on passengers versus drivers are about exactly 50-50, actually. Half the time, the driver is at fault and, is a no bad apple, but he squeezed through the system somehow and driving and doing unscrupulous things. And then the same thing, the other way around. But there are a lot of drivers that I talk to that they complain of truly unjustly being deactivated, not due to a background check, but, look, these companies have clear ADA guidelines. So if you have somebody with a, wheelchair, if you don't help them out, put them in your car, cancel a trip, they have a reason to deactivate you. However, there are other cases, in many, many cases, even with a dash cam, that a passenger may be, under the influence or drunk, just to get a $10, credit from Uber and Lyft, will just report on a driver fraudulently, obviously, saying that it happened to a good friend of mine and he's still deactivated. And in fact, Derek Kerr of the Markup did a national case about it. And in fact, I know Bryant talked to him. His name was Jay. So, there's a lot of, and in California, by the way, as marijuana is legal to a certain degree, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have some guy that has some marijuana and gets in your car, right? And it's a short trip, your car is reeking of marijuana smell, truly. I always put my windows down or whatever not, but the passenger that gets, the next one that gets in after 5 minutes is going to smell. And they can say, oh, my driver, smoked pot because car smells like pot. And boom, Uber deactivates you on the spot. There is absolutely no ifs and buts about it because that complaint did not go to a human, by the way. It went to some AI software with keywords in it saying that if you say under the influence, boom, we deactivate you. So what should drivers do and what can they do? Can they contact you for these unjust deactivations? Well, and what their rights are?
I'll tell you, obviously, it's not the kind of work we do. I'll explain, though. Okay. This is a tough one because, obviously, if, the rideshare companies are in a tough spot here because if heaven forbid something were to happen to a passenger, who's got the deep pocket here, right? And who are they going to go after? They're not going to go after the driver. They're going to go after the company. So obviously that's why they do what they do. But so I've learned, because I've had to go after Uber a few times for not giving those disclosures, I've had a good opportunity to really kind of read over that platform agreement a bunch of times. And believe it or not, there is some help there. Okay. The platform agreement provides that if you have any claim that you want to make against them, any claim, you will agree to arbitrate. Now, that's, for most lawyers, that's buzzword for terrible because we lawyers like to file cases in court in front of juries and judges and, have juries decide our cases. But in this particular instance, I think it could be very helpful for the driver. You have this platform agreement, and if you look at it, it's a contract, and it says that as long as you maintain the community standards, as long as you don't do any of these things that can get you deactivated, you can keep your job. So Brian talked about having a dash cam. This is the very reason for it, and this is why you have to have it. Collect your evidence, take your pictures. I think those are great bits of advice because what you can do is if you do get deactivated, read that platform agreement. It's going to tell you that you can't sue us, but you could take us to arbitration. And now I know people will say, well, when I try to get information from Uber or Lyft, they won't tell me who it was. They won't tell me who said it. Hey, you don't need that, okay? You have this arbitration agreement. It says the first thing you're supposed to do, I guess, is send them a pre-filing letter that tells them what your gripe is. And you have to give them 45 days to respond, okay? And you get that 45 days. Now, they might respond to you, and if they do, you might get a phone call where you tell them, what happened. Now, if they don't want to accept you, you file the arbitration. There are two forums that they have them in. There's JAMS and AAA. When you file an arbitration, it's like filing a lawsuit. but it's not the same thing because you don't have the rules, like the federal rules of procedure or the rules of civil procedure that could really confuse and scare people. Arbitrations are very basic. You just file, and then you get assigned an arbitrator. The arbitrator is usually a retired judge, so they have a clue. And when you get there in front of the arbitrator and you get your date that you get to meet with them, the arbitrator might ask, do you want to do discovery? Do you want to get some information? You get to tell the arbitrator, I want them to turn over what complaint they got about me. Now, if they say we're not going to turn that over, I find it very hard to see how they're going to possibly prevail in their claim. You know, you're going to have your arbitration and you're going to get up in front of the arbitrator and you're going to have your dash cam, you're going to have your evidence, and you're going to show that I did nothing wrong. And they're going to have to prove that you did. Now, I know that's extreme, taking a case all the way to an arbitrator with an arbitration with an arbitrator. But that's what you have. And they have to answer to it. And it costs them money to do these arbitrations. So if you push that envelope, you might find yourself getting the answers you want. And if you don't, at least you're going to get your opportunity to have your, not your day in court, but your day in court, where you're going to get to talk to a person who's an independent and is going to treat both of you the same and give you your fair day. And that's pretty much the best I could do for that situation. It's a tough one.
I appreciate that because I get emails constantly saying that I got unjustly deactivated. People don't know. See, this is like such amazing information. I appreciate it. But, the other thing is also a cost, right? How costly it is to file an arbitration claim.
That's the best. Like $105 at the most.
Okay.
It's so to file a federal lawsuit, it costs $402. To file an arbitration, it costs like $105 or $110. And they have to and this is where it gets to be a bit of a benefit because somebody has to pay the arbitrator. Like they cost money. They do, not you. If they had an arbitration agreement that made you spend all that kind of money, it would be unconstitutional. It'd be struck down and you'd have your day in court. But there's this law called the Federal Arbitration Act. And as long as it's fair to the consumer, it doesn't, literally prevent them from having a hearing because it's overly expensive, then they get to do it. So what these companies do that force arbitrations, and by the way, Uber and Lyft aren't the only ones that force arbitrations. All your banks do, all your credit cards do. They all force arbitrations. They have to pay for them.
Okay. And there are, in the industry that we're involved in, there are some companies that we think they're shady, right? They're trying to get the last $100 out of a driver saying that, yeah, we'll get you reactivated. It's easy to do this, to do that, right? I mean, what do you say about that? And is this something truly a driver can take upon? And if they do prevail at arbitration, is there back pay? Can they require Uber or Lyft to pay them for the time that this process took? Because sometimes it may take 6 months.
My opinion is that your case in the arbitration is a breach of contract case. Okay. My opinion is you are technically suing them for breaching your contract. And so what are your damages for breaching your contract? Every moment that you weren't working when you should have been. I mean, they broke the agreement by listening to some nobody and not looking at your information. Now, maybe there is a period of time that they could claim, hey, we had to deactivate you. We got this complaint and we just, we don't have a choice. But maybe after a couple days of you saying, well, here's my evidence, now activate me. And they're just kind of putting up the talk to the hand, we've already deactivated you. I would say from that point on, the contract's being breached because you're showing them that you've complied with every term of their agreement and they're not complying with the terms. So there becomes a time where you should say, it's been a few days here. I've been deactivated. I've given them all the information and they've just ignored me. I'm starting to count how much money I'm losing.
Okay,
and
great.
As far as whether or not they could win these things, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I think, the way you said it, it looks like it's going to cost them more than it's going to cost you because they have to show up, number one. And, there are thousands by the thousands, if you take them to arbitration, at some point, right?
Right.
Especially if you didn't do anything wrong, because Uber and Lyft have, I don't want to make fun of this, but they have an LAPD policy kind of, they shoot first, ask questions later. And I'm like, they just willy-nilly deactivate people, a great driver for 5 years with 10,000 trips and 495 rating. and they'll be like, you're gone because this passenger thought you were under the influence because your car smelled like marijuana. I'm like, the passenger before you just stepped in and reeked of marijuana. Now, what am I supposed to do? Like, go somewhere, get my car professionally cleaned before I drive again, because I'm losing money for the next hour or two just to get rid of the smell. So, I mean, it's a small minor thing, but it does happen all the time. And as a driver's advocate, this is great information that you provided.
All right. Thanks for watching. That short little clip was from our live stream, Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, turn on all notifications so you'll be notified when we go live, as well as all of our awesome content. Make sure to check out this video right here, which will take you to the entire live stream, or check out this video right there. All right, drive smart, everyone.